Okay, sorry. Okay, great. So welcome again. We're really glad to be here with you today. As you can see, I have a downsizing team on the webinar: Judy Eisenberg, Wendy Tatlock, Bridgette San Soucie, Sarah Hartline, and myself, Carrie Gatto. And we decided to create this webinar because there are so many factors involved when you're considering downsizing. And so our expert panel will cover all the bases today with a goal of making the process less overwhelming and more manageable. Okay, so to kick it off today, I'm the realtor on the panel, and my name is Carrie Gatto. I am with Keller Williams Realty out of Cambridge. We're in the Cambridge Somerville office, which is located near the Alewife T station. And I live in Stoneham with my husband and 3 children. And I have specialized in the greater Boston market for over 10 years now. And what I love to do is I just love to help my clients feel comfortable and confident moving toward their real estate goals by keeping them well informed every step of the way and always keeping their best interests top of mind. And during my career, I have helped a lot of clients go through the downsizing process from a large family home to a smaller residence. And I found that many of these clients do feel overwhelmed, both emotionally and physically when they initially set out to do this. After all, no one likes moving, and especially if it's been a long time home, people will tend to procrastinate and, like I said, just feel kind of overwhelmed. However, I found that taking action, even if it's a small action, tends to build momentum and then confidence. And after successfully downsizing, my clients always find that they are much happier, having less maintenance and less worries and more time to enjoy with their family, their friends, and their hobbies. In fact, they often tell me that looking back, they wish they'd done it sooner. So I wanted to share with you some of the most common concerns that I hear and questions that I hear from my clients who have downsized. And then, like I said, I look forward to hearing your specific questions as well at the end of the webinar. So one of the most common concerns that I hear, especially right now, is I don't know where to go, or I have nowhere to go. It's a very common concern. You know, naturally, people like to be close to the services and the places they've become familiarized with. Sometimes partners might not agree on where they want to go. And right now we're in a very tight market. There's low inventory, and that is great for selling, but not so good on the buying side, right? So one of the first things I do with my downsizing clients is have a buyer interview or buyer consultation where we determine what's most important to my clients about the move, and what the new home must have, what are the deal breakers, and also what's on that wish list. And then from there, knowing their priorities and with my intimate knowledge of the market, I'll create a list of areas that could work for them and talk about strategies to help them find a home they love, even in a tight market. For example, 15% or more of homes are actually sold off market and are never listed on the MLS. And I have access to those homes through my agent networks and other resources. By the way, if you might be considering going out of the area or out of state, I have an extensive agent network, and I can recommend excellent realtors in any area you might be considering. Now, if you're considering senior housing, my colleague Wendy Tatlock with Care Patrol is here on the call today, and she's an expert in senior living options. She'll help you navigate all the options available to you in those categories and answer questions that you have. Now, regarding your current home, I'll give you a highest price analysis of your current home and create a strategy for ensuring you get top dollar out of the sale and can shop for your new home confidently. A very common question is whether it's best to buy first or sell first. And I found that selling typically works best. If you need the equity in your current home in order to buy the new one, which is very typical, we can list your home subject to finding a suitable new residence. And that way you're protected if you cannot find a home that you love. And also makes the buyer flexible to your timing and really puts you in the driver's seat. I highly recommend having the first meeting, even if you don't intend to move for a year or two. And the buyer consult and the listing consult can be combined into one meeting if you prefer. But it just helps you clarify your goals. And I can also give you tips for easy ways to improve the value of your home between now and when you actually do sell. So it's really never too early to meet. The more time we have, the better prepared you can be. And I'll never rush you into anything. I'll make sure I adjust to your timeline and your level of motivation. So another frequent concern is just too much stuff. You know, many people will procrastinate because of this. After raising children or living in the same house for decades, it can seem overwhelming to have to go through the attic, the basement, the closets. And I get it. I personally hate throwing things away. And sometimes I wish someone could just come and do it for me because I'm so bad at it. And the good news is they can. And that's why we have Judy Eisenberg here today. She's a professional organizer, and she specializes in helping people declutter their lives and their homes, and has great systems for making it more efficient and even enjoyable. She'll talk about in just a little while. And trust me when I say that after you purge that clutter, not only will your home look better, you'll also feel so much better too. And then next we have this other concern I hear a lot is, I want to be fair to my kids. If you have children, perhaps they're having families of their own, and naturally you want to take care of them financially or by being close enough to help with childcare. So maybe you're worried about, allocating the assets from your sale in regards to your children. And if you are, I mean, that's great. That just means you're kind and thoughtful. However, in my experience, I found that leaving a property to kids, if you have more than one, is often not the best way to help them. Because even in the most close-knit family, siblings often have different needs, different goals. Some might want to sell, some might want to hold the property, and it can create a rift, which is unfortunate. So I highly recommend speaking with an estate attorney, such as Sarah Hartline with Margolis and Bloom. She's here on the call as well, and she'll help you decide how to make the most of your assets and create a legacy that really fits your family. So while your heart's in the right place, it's also important to make sure that your intent to help is actually effective. It's also possible to leverage life insurance and long-term care insurance to equalize the benefits to your children and take care of unexpected expenses or avoid unexpected expenses. So we have Bridgette San Soucie with New York Life on the webinar today, and she too can help you and your family best prepare for the future. And then lastly, people often are concerned about how to coordinate a sale, a purchase, and a move. It's a lot to think about, it's a lot to navigate. And as a realtor, I'm responsible for coordinating the sale, purchase, and the move on your behalf. I really have a full service approach and like to take care of all those details so that you can focus on your life. I'll create a customized marketing plan using virtual tours and floor plans so that buyers can see the home even from their living room, which will minimize the traffic through your home during COVID or even anytime. Why have traffic if you don't need it? And then we also do targeted social media campaigns and advertise on over 400 different websites to make sure that everyone that's in the market knows about your home. I'll also negotiate the highest possible price on your current home and best terms and help you get your new home on your terms as well. And I'll coordinate with all the parties involved, attorneys, agents, inspectors, appraisers, as well as your downsizing team on the call today to bring the transaction to a successful close with less stress. And I'll let you know what to expect every step of the way so there are no surprises. One thing I wanted to mention here too is whenever someone is selling and buying a home, I always recommend doing a use and occupancy, or for short, UNO, which just means that after the closing, you can continue to live in the home for up to 60 days for a mutually agreeable rent. And then it gives you that extra time to close on your new home and pack and move, and takes the pressure off. I never recommend having 2 closings in the same day, because there's too many things can go wrong and it's just too much stress. So that way you have more flexibility, and just tends to go a lot more smoothly. Here's a testimonial from my clients, Carol and Bob, who downsized from their home in Somerville and now live in Billerica. They're close to their children and their grandkids, and they are clearly much happier with the whole situation. So there's more reviews and testimonials on Zillow and also on my website. And I thank you for listening. I would love to learn more about your specific goals and needs and how I might be able to help. My consultations are free. You can reach out on email or my cell phone. You can text or call me. It's a great way to reach me as well. And now I'll turn it over to Wendy Tatlock of Care Patrol, who is your resource for navigating the landscape of senior living options.
Thanks, Carrie. Hold on. All right. Thanks, Carrie. Again, I'm Wendy Tatlock. I live in Arlington and I have 2 teenage boys. I am a senior care advisor and my company is Care Patrol. I own one of 150 locations throughout the country. I'm a certified senior advisor and a certified dementia practitioner. I got into this business 2 years ago after a 20-year career in corporate America because I wanted to do something more meaningful. Also, I went through a challenging situation figuring out housing and healthcare with my own parents, so I decided to help people in similar situations. Page down, hello. There we go. I am very passionate about helping seniors find safe and affordable living options that are a great fit for them. My services are free to the families because I'm paid by a community if someone moves in. I'm really part realtor, part social worker. I work personally with families to help them find the right living situation and work through how to pay for it. I also help families find the resources they need throughout the process and facilitate difficult family dynamics. Today, I'm going to talk about the main considerations and how to select a great fitting senior living option for once you start needing help and can't live completely independently. And I'm going to explain the main types of senior housing and their pros and cons and costs. This can be a very emotional and difficult decision, so I'd like to break it down into 4 main considerations. City, care, cost, and culture. I call it the 4 C's of senior living. First, geography, city. We are lucky to live in a region with tremendous options. There are hundreds of options throughout New England, and I'm sure there's something that's a great fit for you or your family members. So first ask yourself, what do I want to live nearby? Do I want to live near family, my neighborhood, my church, some other activity, etc.? So geography, number 1. Second, care. And I think this is the most important and sort of the most complicated consideration for seniors. There are different types of care, and depending on the care, your care needs now and in the future, different living situations may be a better fit for you. Do you need help with activities of daily living or ADLs like showering or getting around? Or does your family member have short-term memory issues and need a secure environment? This is different from medical care needs, which can either be ongoing or acute, and should be factored into your decision on where you live. These types of help are not all available at all living situations, so it's just really important to understand your needs early in the process. Obviously, there's cost. You have to look at your income and assets, but there are other helpful items as well. If you break your monthly expenses out in terms of non-medical expenses versus medical, including prescriptions, insurance, and copays, this is helpful because if you move, the medical piece stays with you, but most of the other expenses change. And like with assisted living or other similar situations, all of those other expenses are included. These last 4 items are other ways seniors can fund different living options. Obviously, selling your home. There are a whole lot of benefits out there available for veterans and spouses. You don't want to overlook that. There are different ways you can leverage a life insurance policy to get money for senior living and senior care, and different companies that can help you do that easily. And then finally, long-term care insurance, which Bridgette is going to talk more about in a little bit. And last, culture. What are your personal preferences? What kinds of hobbies and activities are important to you? Is personal space and living in a standalone house really important? Or are you okay with downsizing into a small apartment? Are you a very private person who enjoys a great amount of alone time, or do you thrive when it's more social and more people are around? Most people are somewhere in the middle, but it's helpful to have thought through your preferences as you go through the process. Now I'm going to review 4 different senior living options, sharing their costs and pros and cons. In-home care, CCRCs, assisted living, and nursing homes. And I'm going to start with in-home care. This is where you stay in your house and bring in help as you need it. For planning purposes, the cost is about $30 an hour with a minimum of a few hours at a time, which can calculate to $20,000 a month if you need help around the clock. The positives are that you get to stay in your spacious home, and it's typically the cheapest option if you don't need much help. Most people choose this option if they can. However, this can be isolating, especially this past year through COVID, and very expensive if you need a lot of help. And it's also difficult to coordinate that help as your needs increase. CCRCs, or continuing care retirement communities, are a different option. These are those large campuses you see that have different levels of care, including typically townhouses for independent living, some sort of assisted living, and also a nursing home. They're very expensive, with a buy-in up front that can be up to even or over $1 million in New England, plus monthly fees of several $1,000s, and this doesn't include care. These are great for people who are really independent, can walk far over the campus, want to be in a community of like-minded individuals, and want a larger living space and access to an excellent nursing home if they might need it for future medical needs. The challenges, other than being expensive, are that you have to be truly independent to be accepted, and there is typically a long wait list. Also, you still have to coordinate your care personally as your needs grow. They don't do that for you. You're essentially buying access to a nursing home that you may or may not need in the future. And we'll talk about nursing homes more in a little bit. Assisted living is different from CCRCs in that it's a rental model and all the apartments are contained within a building. Think of it as living on a cruise ship or a nicer college dorm where you have a pretty small apartment, but meals and social activities are in the larger building. The price range is pretty broad depending on the community you choose, your care needs, and whether you qualify for a special financing program. The price typically includes all of your living expenses except for medical. They provide help with your ADLs, or activities of daily living, and they coordinate the care for you. The environment is as social as you want to be, and it isn't isolating like at home. It's also important that this solution is exceptional when dementia is involved. The caregivers are experienced with how to care for the disease, the environment is safe, and it lets family get back to a more normal relationship with the senior out of the difficult caregiving role. There's also peace of mind of daily check-ins and a single point of contact for concerned family members who may live far away. The main cons, other than price, are that the living space is small and some worry about privacy, but the reality is you can engage in the community as much as you want. Now I'm going to talk about nursing homes because they're often confused with these other options. They're really a medical facility rather than a living option, and not an ideal place to be unless you need that high level of medical care. They're very expensive, and that Medicare only covers them following an acute medical issue like a fall or a heart attack. And Medicaid, Mass Health, will pay after you spend down your assets. Again, they're great if you need that high level of medical care. If you're bedridden, have wounds, there are certain types of medical situations where they really are the right place for you. But unfortunately, because such a significant percentage of the residents in nursing homes are on Medicare, and Medicare doesn't reimburse them at a very high rate, most nursing homes can't afford to be a really nice place. And again, it's a medical environment. So you only want to be there if you have extreme medical needs or you can't afford to live elsewhere. The rooms and services and food tend to be a much lower quality than with other living options. The last point I want to make, and this is one you'll hear in the presentations of my peers, is that regardless which option you choose, it's really important to plan ahead. For example, with CCRCs, there's a wait list and you have to be completely healthy and mobile to move in. With assisted living, they'll allow you to stay there and age in place, even if your physical needs become very high if you're already living there. For example, if you need 2 people to help you get out of bed, they'll provide that service if you're already living there, but they won't accept you as a move-in in that condition. And even with skilled nursing, there's a big difference between good ones and not so good ones. And if you need that high level of medical care, you can get into a good one if you private pay at about, call it $13,000 a month for 3 to 6 months, but you're stuck with a mediocre one if you can't afford to do that. And again, many of the best ones have waiting lists, so it's good to plan for that as well. So that's it for me. That was a lot of information. And if you want to talk more or see a summary of some of those numbers and things, you can email me. My email address is in the chat. I'm going to turn this now over to Judy Eisenberg, who is a professional organizer, to talk about living a life with less. There, Judy, you should be able to share yours now.
Judy, I think you're still muted.
Oh.
There you go.
Let's go back. Meow. Well, I'm Judy Eisenberg, and I am a professional organizer. My business is Clutter Clearer Coach. I help people who feel stuck and discouraged because of all their clutter and disorganization. We work together to let go of stuff, to make decisions, and to be organized. And then I set up systems with them to continue being decluttered. I live in Somerville with my life partner, Steve, and our 2 cats, Eleanor and Baby Kitty. So I'm going to talk to you about living a life with less. So what is downsizing? Well, I consider it rightsizing. So you're in one place, and you've lived there for a long time, but you need to move to a more appropriate place, something that's right for you. That's why I call it rightsizing. Come on. Well, maybe you're divorcing, or you've become empty nesters, your grown children have moved out and you want a smaller place, or maybe, as Wendy mentioned, you need to move to assisted living or nursing home. When to downsize? Well, you may have a limited budget, and by downsizing, maybe you can stretch the budget, and maybe you're feeling really overwhelmed with everything that you need to do at home and you want less responsibility. or need a safer environment. Now, there are emotional impacts of downsizing, as Carrie will tell you and knows from her clients. Are you ready to move? Do you want to move? And for me, I can tell you, I went through all of this several years ago. I was living in a 2-family home in an apartment that Tufts University owned, and they wanted faculty to move in, and I had to go out. That was really overwhelming for me. It was scary. And I know if this is what you're going to be doing with downsizing, these may be feelings you feel as well. And there's a lot of grief and loss for moving from somewhere that you've lived a long time. So there are ways to ease those emotions. You want to identify your goal for downsizing and look at that a lot. For me, I knew I wanted an apartment that I could afford, that was sunny, that was in a safe area, and that would take my 2 cats. So I kept that in mind as I was looking. You may need a therapist to help you through these emotions. And the other thing you can do is to meditate. You can sit quietly, calm your mind, listen to the sounds around you, and hopefully you'll feel a lot calmer. Or you can take photos of items that you can't take with you for memories. There are positive outcomes: less stress, liberating in a smaller space, and it's a new beginning. So there are some steps you can take to downsize. You want to first make a plan, schedule it in your calendar. So you want to figure out when you're going to do the decluttering, when you're going to start packing, and when your move is once the house sells. You want to make a list of everything you're going to take and start with items that are not sentimental. It'll be easier to make decisions. Of course, you have to pack. So you want to declutter and organize. And someone who's coming through to look at your house during an open house is not going to be happy seeing a room that's full of clutter. So in your own home, you want to let go of that clutter and clear things up. Of course, you have to make a lot of decisions. And for some people, that's really, really hard to do. So I recommend you take baby steps. You want to begin with one area or room at a time. Take an object or look at something and say to yourself, do I love this? Maybe I don't like it. Do I need this? If you don't love it, you can let it go, either sell it or give it away. You want to decide what to keep and pack, where you're going to store things if they don't fit in the new place, and what to sell, give away, or throw away. So if you're not sure to let go of, here's some tips. If you have, say, a small appliance you bought, it's never been removed from the box is sealed, you'll never use it, so sell it or give it away. Oh, you say, oh, I might need this someday, or I might read this someday, if it's like a book or a recipe. If you haven't in the last couple of years, I doubt that you will. And if it has no sentimental value, certainly you can let it go. So I recommend you do not do this decluttering by yourself. Only if you have to. Find a friend or family member who can be your accountability buddy and work side by side with you as you go through this process. And if you are disorganized, don't choose someone who is also disorganized, because you'll get into trouble. The person who helps you can help eliminate any distractions. If you have ADD and you're easily distracted, or if you procrastinate, they'll keep you from doing that, if you ask them, of course. Let them know your needs and issues. Do you need to stop every 30 minutes for a break? And let them know if you have a goal. Do you want them to help you finish decluttering by a certain time? Let them know when you need to finish packing and when the move is. Or you could hire a professional organizer like myself, the Clutter Clearer Coach, who will help you with no judgments and work with you through that process. There are also other organizers out there in the area, so you'll have plenty of resources. So Your realtor might find a professional to help you stage your home before the open house. You want your house to look the best to sell it. You can do some things by yourself to depersonalize the space. If you have any like photos of family or grandchildren, stuff on the, toys all around, pack them up and get them out of the rooms. If you need storage, rent it. If you have to patch or repair things in your home or outside and you can't do it, hire a professional and make sure you do it really soon because they get busy. You want to clean. If you can't do it all yourself, hire a cleaning company. Go neutral with color because anyone coming into your home in an open house, if the rooms are dark or if there's garish colors, it may turn them off. Let the light shine in, open your screens, your curtains, and focus on curb appeal. So when you have someone coming through an open house, remember their first impression is their only impression. So you want that bedroom or other rooms to look bright and inviting. So this living room may not look so cluttered, but you can make it look even better. You can take some furniture out, take those empty boxes away, and rearrange things so the place looks more spacious and inviting. Okay, curb appeal. Maybe you have a lot of weeds in your yard or some overgrown shrubs. That's not going to be appealing to anyone coming to your open house. So if you can't do it yourself, you can hire a professional organizer, and that's me. I'm sorry, a professional gardener. My business is Sun and Shade Gardening, and I can help you with all your curb appeal needs. So thank you so much for attending our webinar. Again, I'm Judy Eisenberg, the Clutter Clearer Coach. If you'd like to talk for about half an hour on a phone consultation about any of your decluttering, organizing, and moving needs, feel free to call. And below here are my clutter and my Sun and Shade Gardening contact information. So thanks again. I'm now going to turn you over to Sarah Hartline, attorney, who will talk to you about estate planning. Hit it, Sarah.
Thank you, Judy. I think I need you to stop sharing.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.
Great. And then I will start sharing. All right. Great. All right. So good afternoon, everyone. As Judy mentioned, Sarah Hartline, I'm an estate planning attorney with Margolis Bloom. And so I'm going to be talking today on some estate planning basics and how that fits into your downsizing journey. Let's see. So many of you may already have, some estate planning documents, and one initial step when you're downsizing that I recommend is for you to actually get your hands on those documents. So too often, unfortunately, I see situations where loved ones think that their parent or other relative has prepared planning documents. They know they're somewhere, but they just can't find them. So I definitely recommend, as you're doing these decluttering and you're starting to plan, going through your filing cabinets, your desk, getting these documents. They might be, sometimes they're in a safe, sometimes they're in a safe deposit box, or they might even be with your attorney's office. So track those down, not just the copies, but also the original documents, and find out where they are, and come up with a plan too, in terms of how you're going to let your loved ones, the people, for example, that you're appointing in these documents, like your healthcare proxy and your power of attorney, know where your documents are and where they can access those in the event of an emergency. Once you actually get your hands on those documents, a few things to go through, sort of, to check on. First, check the dates of those documents. If they're more than 10 years old, for example, if your power of attorney is more than 10 years old, a bank or a financial institution may no longer honor it. So it might be a good idea to update that. Also with your will, for example, if that's more than 10 years old, it might not have some of the updated language in terms of accessing digital assets. So giving that person ability to access your email accounts or your pictures through Apple. That's an issue that comes up a lot more often these days. So another reason to make sure that your documents and the language is very up to date. You'll also want to check on the appointments. So who are the people, your decision makers, your trusted individuals that you're appointing in these various positions, and should those be updated? So often my clients do their estate planning when they have young children, and then 15 or 20 years later, they're looking at their documents again to say, well, maybe I now have a grown child who I should be appointing as, for example, my alternate healthcare proxy or my alternate power of attorney. So again, just starting to think through those, whether there might be some changes or updates in who those trusted individuals are going to be in your estate plan. Also, for example, with a healthcare proxy or power of attorney, you do want to make sure that there's updated contact information. So in the event of an emergency, there's an updated cell phone number or other way of reaching the person that you have appointed. So as I had mentioned, the power of attorney and healthcare proxy are two of what I would consider the most important documents to have. Regardless of your health or your age, they're documents that you definitely want to have in place in the event of an emergency, in the event that there is a hospitalization. And unfortunately, we do work with many families where they put off these documents or they put off updating them. And that means that in the event of an emergency, the family members would have to seek an emergency guardianship or conservatorship, which is costly and time consuming and a very stressful process for the family. So with respect to some other important documents, wills and trusts, selling your home can definitely mean potential changes in those documents. If you live in the greater Boston area, your house may be one of your largest assets, and you might be at a stage in your life when you are starting to think about long-term care and having these needs, for example, for nursing home or other types of long-term care in the future. So you might be starting to think about things like protecting your home. I think the most important thing here when people do talk about asset protection, long-term care planning, is to realize that everybody has different goals in different situations. And so for when you do talk about putting your house, for example, into trust or doing a life estate deed, the one, what makes sense for one person is not going to necessarily make sense for the next person. Each of these options, when you talk about trusts and life estate deeds, has different pros and cons with respect to estate taxes, capital gains taxes, asset protection, maintaining control and access to equity for the person, the homeowner. So I tell people to be careful about the neighbor trap, which is sort of the trap of seeing your neighbor do one thing and then thinking that you should be doing the same thing. So, talked about, some documents, some sort of, basics in terms of things to be thinking about. And I know one thing, even if you are feeling ready to move forward with doing an estate plan, with updating your documents or, putting something into place, the one thing that people are worried about is the idea of actually meeting with an attorney in person. Of course, right now with everything that's going on with the ongoing pandemic, although things do seem to be looking like they're taking a positive turn. So luckily, one thing to know is that our office, like many other estate planning offices, is now operating 100% virtually. Recent legislation from last summer actually allows for us not only to meet initially with our clients, but also to sign and notarize documents remotely via Zoom. So I actually let people know that I think that right now is actually really a great time to meet with an estate planning attorney and talk about your estate plan, because you can actually easily incorporate. I have clients that will have, their child in California and their financial advisor, that they can all Zoom together. It's really a great way of getting everybody on the same page and pulling things together. So, and then finally, sort of, continuing on the theme of this presentation in terms of earlier is better, I definitely recommend starting this process as early as possible. I often do meet with clients who are rushing to get things done, and they're, rushing to make a decision on how to purchase or title a new condo. And so starting the process earlier rather than later can definitely give you a great, deal of peace of mind in terms of moving through these, the stages of downsizing. And, I always tell people in terms of one of my favorite parts about being an estate planning attorney is really the, working with the client and seeing once they have signed the documents and, finally have everything in place, how it does just feel like a huge weight is lifted off their shoulders in terms of feeling that reduced, stress and having that, thing on their to-do list that's been there forever. So I do have my contact information here. I have my phone number and my email. So feel free to reach out if you have, any questions about your specific situation or anything that I didn't cover today. And I'd love to speak with you. So I'm now going to pass over the presentation to Bridgette San Soucie, who is an advisor with New York Life, and she will take it from here. So let me see, let me stop.
Thank you, Sarah.
Great.
Okay. All right, should be visible. Thank you so much, everyone, so far for staying with us. My name is Bridgette San Soucie. I am an agent with New York Life Insurance Company. I'm out of our Waltham office, but like most folks, I do work via 100% by Zoom. I specialize in life insurance and long-term care. I am also AARP certified and also work with our AARP clients with life insurance and long-term care. A little about me, I have 2 adult children, 25 and 21, and I have a grand dog, Nova, the love of my life. So we're talking today using the power of tax diversification to create a tax-free income for your future. And this kind of really ties into downsizing because we're talking about pre-retirees and retirees, so we're kind of in that mindset. And so, and also protecting, those who matter most. My little disclaimer, we'll keep that on too long. And just wanted to say, just welcome. Let's talk about common goals and strategies to consider as you plan for retirement. So if you could predict the future, if you knew you would live a long time, you'd probably buy a guaranteed life income product so you don't outlive your money. If you knew that you would die next week, you'd probably buy the biggest block of term insurance you could qualify for. If you knew that an investment would turn out to be, golden, you'd probably pile every nickel into it. So it's kind of, we're on the same, thought process. We don't know what will happen. We need to find the right financial tools to cover as many contingencies as possible, without losing control, principal, or sleep. And there is no perfect place to put money. They're only trade-offs, depend on your goals, your time horizon, risk, and tolerance. 2 kinds of money to protect what matters most, safe money, legacy, like your home, and money to help grow and support your lifestyle, like investments. Okay. Get to my next slide here, I apologize. And what will your future retirement hold? More time for yourself, your family, hobbies, travel, it's very independent to, who we are. So challenges to consider: Social Security benefits may replace a smaller portion of pre-retirement income. Many people may live 30 years or more as retirees and need to prepare for that length of retirement. That really ties into, downsizing, where you're going to go, and if something was to happen, how you're going to pay for it. So retirement income sources have also changed. In the past, we, really relied on Social Security and pension, and as a result, individuals didn't need as much in personal savings. Now, our Social Security faces potentially uncertain future. So fewer companies are offering pension plans, choosing instead to shift costs to employees, with our 401ks and other defined contribution plans. And people will likely need to rely more on personal savings and assets. As far as me and New York Life and insurance, you know, we talk about insurance a lot, life insurance and long-term care, because those will be your personal savings and assets that will be used towards downsizing or any emergencies that may come up. So personal assets are critical. Most people have more questions than answers when it comes to planning for retirement. You know, how much will I need? How much will I have? How much do I need to save to cover the shortfall? And for personal savings, people want to know, where should I put my money and how will I be affected by taxes? So a key question, you know, have you factored in the effects of taxes on your future retirement income? And where do you think tax rates are going? So currently it's it's historically low. You know, taxes may be higher by the time you reach your retirement. Okay, I'm just going to skip over this one. And, you know, one thing that when we do kind of consult with each other and we're talking about, you know, downsizing, we're talking about retirement, we're talking about your future, you know, we look at really three things. I call it the three buckets. You know, what do you have right now that's taxable? What do you have right now that's tax deferred? And what do you have saved or going into your savings for tax-free income once you retire? You know, what are your assets now? And I won't read all of these, but, you know, look at taxable, things that are tax deferred and tax-free income. Okay. And the tax-perfect retirement plan, there are ways to help minimize the effect taxes will have on your retirement income. Ideally, you would like to create a retirement plan that includes three key attributes: contributions that are tax deductible, tax deferred, and tax-free. Again, diversifying your asset types may help create more tax-free income for your future retirement. And just some examples right there. And non-traditional solutions. In addition to protecting your family, we use whole life insurance. It can be paid for with after-tax dollars and generates cash value that accumulates on a tax-deferred basis. You know, you can have access to your policy values, so cash in your policy before or during retirement, generally on a tax-free basis. And it also provides, you know, a death benefit for your beneficiaries. You know, there are three things that can prevent you from reaching your goals. If you live, will you accumulate enough money? If you were to die, will your family have sufficient resources without you? And if you become disabled, how will you maintain your insurance policy? Okay. And some of the benefits, I like this little example, you know, when we do sit down and talk to clients and most people have all their money in a pension plan, a 401k, you know, just quick example here, let's use have 100,000 in a 401k, it's 100% taxable, assuming around 22% of that, that's 22,000 in taxes, you know, what's left after taxes is 78,000. Now, by diversifying a little bit, keep 50,000 in that same 401k, but put 50,000 in a cash value life insurance policy. The 401k is taxable, life insurance is not. Your after-tax dollars is 94,000. That's a huge difference when we're talking about money in retirement. And which of your, you know, take a look at what you have, you know, like Sarah said, look at everything that you have. Which of your financial products provide these benefits? Why New York Life? It's a great company. I've been with them for a few years. They've been around since 1845, and the company is a mutual company serving our policyholders. New York Life has the highest possible financial strength rating currently awarded by any life insurance company. And just ask yourself, you know, do your loved ones need life insurance protection? Are you addressing your needs and objectives for your future retirement? And what have you learned today that may help you prepare fully? If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Of course, speaking to me is no charge. You know, that's what I do all day. And I would love to, you know, point you in the right direction. Thank you very much. And thank you so much for staying with us today for the whole hour.
Thank you so much, Bridgette, and to all our panelists today. Hopefully this helped you feel a little more empowered and hopefully less overwhelmed. But I would just say, I would encourage everyone that, you know, it's so important when navigating this process to have a team and just to reach out to any or all of us and have that conversation, because when you know you have someone in your corner, all of this becomes much less intimidating. So I'd like to open it up for questions. I did just put in a file in the chat box. It's a checklist. This is our free gift to you today, and you can download it directly from the chat. It's a countdown to downsizing checklist that will allow you to kind of plan and set goals. I'll also email it to you, so don't worry if you're not able to get it from the chat. Now, I know there was a question here for Judy. Janet asked, how do professional organizers price their service? Judy, you want to take that one?
Sure. Professional organizers price their service very differently. It depends how long you've been in the business. We don't actually discuss prices with each other, but I, for one, charge a set amount per hour with a 3-hour minimum. And I have package plans where you get a discount. And there's also a sliding scale sometimes if you really can't afford what I charge. So every organizer can price differently depending on their experience and what they do for you. Does that answer your question?
And I'm assuming that in the initial consultation, you'll probably provide a quote, right?
Oh, yeah. Normally, without being in the COVID pandemic, an organizer might come to your home and do an assessment. Right now, a lot of organizers are doing virtual via Zoom or FaceTime, and you can show them from your laptop or computer through Zoom your home, and so we can get an idea of how many hours it might take and what it might cost. And as I mentioned, in my talk, I offer a free half-hour consultation via the phone, and there are some organizers who actually come out to your house and not charge you for a consultation.
Great, thank you, Judy.
Sure.
And Carolyn, yes, we won't be posting slides, but we'll be sending the recording out, so you'll have that. I'll send a link out later today. Let's see. So I saw another question. Oh, Barbara asked, if you're 80 years old, is it too late to buy non-taxable life insurance? So that's a question for Bridgette.
Yes. So when we talk about the non-taxable part, is you're paying for your life insurance. You know, if money's coming out of your checking account, you've already been taxed on that money. So it grows tax deferred. And so when you take it out at the end, or you do take money from it, it is tax free. You've already paid tax. It's not coming out of your paycheck pre-tax or anything. It's coming out of a checking account. So think of it that way. You've already paid tax on it in the beginning, so you do not pay tax at the end. Does that answer your question? You said that was from.
And
Hopefully I
like,
didn't see.
Bridgette, there was another
Yes.
follow-up question. Oh, go ahead.
It does, but I was concerned about the cost, I guess, of being 80 years old. What would the cost, would it be prohibitive, I guess?
It's something, it goes by age and health, of course. So if you're, if you're 80 years old and we're talking someone who's 40 years old, they have, 25, 30 years for that to grow. You would end up putting a lot of money into it to get anything back. So it would be, we'd look at different options for you, not necessarily cash value life insurance at 80.
Okay. Thank you.
Great question.
Thank you so much.
And for Judy, do you ever have children of elderly clients who hire you for their parents? And if so, how does that work? For example, are parents receptive to it, or are they more hesitant?
Well, yes, I do have adult children of elderly parents who contact me and they want to help out their parents with my services. A lot of times, maybe if someone's been hoarding things for many years, they're really just reluctant. They don't want help. Some people are receptive to it. They're like, okay, come and help me. It really just depends on the nature of the person, their personality, and how attached they are to their objects. And the most important thing is they really have to be ready. If they're hesitant, and they may start with you, they may decide, oh, I can't do this, and then let you go. So I think it just depends on the parents. So.
Great. And then I didn't want to skip Meg's question. Also for Bridgette, she asked, when you say life insurance is tax-free, you are referring only to income tax, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I must have missed that. I also wanted to give a shout out to Sarah. I know she just jumped off with estate planning. I did this with my family last year and during the pandemic. We figured it was a good time. Everyone is stuck at home. And so we did it by Zoom. It took 8 months. So when you talk about trying to find paperwork and deeds and everything that you need, I'm telling you, our family is so much more open to this now, having gone through the process, and I highly recommend it. Start as soon as possible. You know, my parents had stuff in a safe deposit box. How would anyone get to that if we didn't have the access? So we had to really kind of move things and put it out where your loved ones can find it.
Yeah, great advice. Emily, did you have a question or two?
Yeah, I had 2 questions. One was for Wendy. I actually just did a networking call with one of your colleagues and sort of found out about her geographic area. And I was just curious, I know you can each refer to each other like Carrie can with her colleagues if it's outside of your area, but what is the specific area that you serve?
Yeah, did you meet with Cian? Is that
Yes,
who
I
you met
did.
with?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's Metro West in Boston and I am north of that. So I'm like out route to north up into southern New Hampshire all the way over to the coast. So,
Okay.
and then we have a colleague who works on the South Shore too. So it's like we all just work together and coordinate for what's right for the clients.
Okay, well, it's nice to know. I know, and it's nice to see your presentation because she was talking about this kind of presentation. So I didn't realize that you were on the call. So that's great.
Yeah, fabulous. That's great.
So, and Carrie, you know, I talk to a lot of people who they have too much house and not enough cash to live on in retirement. And so, you know, that's one reason I actually am listening to this call, because I want to be able to speak to that a little bit better. But I also, you know, they also have what you talked about avoiding by talking to Sarah, which is, you know, you give the house to the 3 siblings and they now own a property with their 2 or 3 siblings that they don't have enough cash flow and they have this property. Is there any way to make that situation better? Or are they just kind of stuck with it? I mean, do you ever have that situation?
Yeah, sell it. And then divide the proceeds is really the best way, because after it's been passed on already, it's really tricky to get everyone on the same page. Sometimes they are, but in my experience, most often, like 90% of the time, they're not. And that's why I spoke to that earlier, that I, you know, and that might be something you can talk to Sarah about as well, about how to allocate those assets if you do liquidate the property and sell it, you know, how to best do that.
And then you have situations where it's a vacation home that they all like to use. So I'm thinking that, you know, they could potentially do some planning where they could generate more income when they're not using it and somehow have that income flow out to the owners rather than staying stuck inside of a property trust or something. So that's a Sarah question probably for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's always a possibility. It still will require probably someone to kind of take the lead on it and find the property manager or manage it themselves. And there might be, you know, upkeep to consider, who's going to pay for that. But if everyone can, you know, again, get on the same page, absolutely, that would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you. And by the way, Emily is a fantastic financial planner with Edward Jones. So if you need that, contact Emily. Any other questions? All of our, just so you know, all of our contact information is in the top of the chat. So you just have to scroll up, and I will also send out that checklist along with our contact information by email.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, everyone.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Very helpful. Thank you for your time and all your great questions. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
2 new messages. Oops. Oops. Oh, thank you.